Hi sisters, Gilly Star here and welcome back to my channel. Hi! So, as you can see from the title of this video, we will not be reviewing the Jackman Hill palette. Instead, we will be reliving my high school experience in chemistry. So basically, I didn't learn anything all year, but we are changing that up today with the help of my two favorite sisters. So here are my two favorite sisters.
Tabitha Adam
and Atavia Particles.
So Tabitha Adam, so what are we going to be doing today?
We're going to be doing the Briggs-Rauscher oscillation reaction.
Bam! And if you would like to learn more about this chemical reaction, then
Keep on watching.
First things first, safety, honey. In this experiment, we will be using hydrogen peroxide and sulfuric acid, which can cause serious burns. We will also be using malonic acid, which is a strong eye irritant. So please ensure to wear goggles and gloves before beginning this experiment. To begin this tutorial, we need to set up our ingredients. To the left, we have hydrogen peroxide. In the middle, we have potassium iodate and malonic acid. And to the right, we have starch and all the materials we will need for this experiment. First, I'm having Sister Tabitha measure out the amount of grams of each ingredient we'll be using. Hydrogen peroxide and sulfuric acid are liquids, so they will be measured at a later time. First, she is measuring out 1.5 grams of malonic acid. Then she will be measuring out 0.4 grams of manganese sulfate. And finally, she will be measuring out 0.1 grams of soluble starch.
We are now making the 8.6% hydrogen peroxide solution, also known as solution A. This is by taking 29 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide and adding it to a 100 milliliter volumetric flask. We then fill the rest of the flask up with distilled water to dilute the hydrogen peroxide. Keep in mind that hydrogen peroxide is an acid and can be harmful to the skin. We then measure out 40 milliliters of this new solution to a graduated cylinder and then cap it to save it for later. We are now making solution B, which consists of sulfuric acid, potassium iodate, and distilled water. We first measure out 3.3 milliliters of sulfuric acid into a 5 milliliter graduated cylinder. Into a bigger graduated cylinder, we put in some distilled water. Keep in mind that sulfuric acid is a very, very dangerous acid and can be very harmful to your skin. So we add some distilled water at the bottom and add the 3.3 milliliters of sulfuric acid. We then wash out the 5 milliliter graduated cylinder with some water to make sure that any excess sulfuric acid is gone from that tube. We then add the rest of the distilled water up to the line of the volumetric flask. Once the sulfuric acid is diluted, you then add the 4.3 grams of potassium iodate and mix it. Make sure that it is completely dissolved before you pour it into the graduated cylinder. Measure out 40 milliliters of that new solution and then cap it to save it for later.
Okay, sisters, now we begin the part of the experiment where we have to measure out soluble starch and add it to boiling water. Here we have all the materials we will need, including malonic acid, soluble starch, and manganese sulfate monohydrate. First, we begin by boiling 100 milliliters of distilled water.
We measure out 5 milliliters of the boiling hot water and add starch to it. Starch is only soluble when heat is added to it. If it was added to cold water, it would not break. Heat helps break up that crystalline structure that starch has. We add that back into the bigger beaker and let that sit for about 5 minutes. Once the boiling water with starch has cooled down, you first add the manganese sulfate and stir. Once it's dissolved, you then add the malonic acid. Stir. You now add solution C to a graduated cylinder up to 40 milliliters. Once that is complete, you are ready to mix them all together. Here we're adding solution A, solution B, and let that stir around. The only gas that is created is the vapor from the malonic acid.
Add solution C and voila! Look at that pigmentation, sisters!
Solution A, hydrogen peroxide and water, and solution B, potassium iodate and sulfuric acid are poured into a beaker. The mixture creates a clear solution, meaning the iodine and the iodine ion concentration has decreased. Then the solution turns yellow, meaning the iodine and the iodine ion concentration has decreased. Adding solution C, starch, malonic acid, and manganese sulfate and water into the mixture, making the dark blue color from the formation of the starch iodine combination. Both iodine and iodine ion concentration will decrease.
That chemical reaction was so pigmented. I was shook it.
So, Gil, did you learn anything today?
I'll just stick to makeup. So thank you guys for being on my channel today. It was a pleasure having you guys.
No problem. We enjoyed being on your channel. Bye!
Sashay away. If you would like to follow me on my makeup journey, well not my chem journey, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter with both just Skilly Star, and my Snapchat for more behind the scenes type stuff, Skilly Star with an extra R after star. Just kidding, gonna be reviewing the Fenty Beauty Fairy Balm next week. Stay tuned. Bye sisters!